Anybody know what some of the worst 3 letters are? 3 small letters that can change everything. The 3 letters I'm referring to are the letters D-I-S. Yeah, dis changes everything. Here's what I mean. With dis, obey becomes disobey. And with dis, respect becomes disrespect. Regard is suddenly disregard. Also, what was an ability becomes a disability. Yeah, engage is now disengage, and grace is transformed to disgrace. All because of the letters D-I-S. I think we'd be hard-pressed to find more potent 3 letters. And we'd be hard-pressed to find a better example of their power than the word appointment. See, most of us kind of like appointments. Even the organizationally challenged among us, folks like us, we sort of like appointments. I think because appointments create in us a sense of predictability in an unpredictable world. Because deep down inside we know that we really can't control the future. Yes, yet appointments sort of make it seem like we can. So appointments are good. How many of us like appointments? Some of us? Let's now apply the letters D-I-S. I think disappointment reminds us that we control very little. A disappointment is a missed opportunity. What we had hoped would happen didn't. Some examples, maybe we wanted health and we got disease. Maybe we wanted retirement, instead we got a reassignment. Maybe we got divorce instead of family. A dismissal instead of a promotion. So what do we do with our disappointments? We could be like the lady who was jilted at the altar. Her missed appointment became a disappointment. How did she respond? Not too well. This lady closed all the blinds in the house. She stopped every clock. She left the wedding cake on the table to gather cobwebs, and she continued to wear the wedding dress until it just hung off of her. Seems her wounded heart consumed her life. I guess when we run into disappointment, we could follow a similar course. We could maybe run away and hide. Or maybe we could handle it differently. Maybe we could follow the example of the Apostle Paul. See, he had a goal to share the gospel in Spain. But rather than send Paul to Spain, God sent him to a Roman prison. And I expect sitting in a Roman jail was not a whole lot of fun. Now, Paul could have reacted like the jilted woman we talked about earlier, but he didn't. He thought, well, as long as I'm in here, I might as well write a few letters. Folks, that's why our Bibles has epistles to Philemon, to the Philippians, to the Colossians, and to the Ephesians. I have no doubt the Apostle Paul would have done a great work in Spain, but would it have compared to the work of those 4 letters? Philemon, Philippians, Colossians, Ephesians. How many of us get joy out of the stuff written there? My friends, I believe you have sat where Paul has sat. I know you have. You were hotter than a dime on an August sidewalk, on a trail for Spain, or maybe college, or marriage, or independence, but then came the layoff, or the pregnancy, or the sick parent. And you ended up in prison, so to speak. No more Spain. Hello, Rome. So long appointment. Hello, disappointment. So how'd you handle it? Well, maybe I should ask, how are you handling it? Because it still happens to us every day. The last part of Psalm 23 and verse 5 may have some help for us. See, it's a reminder. It says, you, talking about God, anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. God, you anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Now you may be asking, what does a verse on oil have to do with hurts that come from disappointment in life? Well, let's check out some facts about sheep. See, in ancient Israel, shepherds used oil for three purposes: to repel insects, to prevent conflicts, and to heal wounds. See, insects can kill sheep. Flies and mosquitoes and gnats can turn the summer into a time of torture for our livestock. Consider nose flies, for example. If they succeed in depositing their eggs into the soft membrane of a sheep's nose, the eggs become worm-like larvae, which drives the sheep insane. Now I want you to imagine having worms crawling around in your nose. And not having fingers. I'm not sure which is a worse image, guys. But I figured I'd bring you that little piece of joy. For relief from the agonization of this, the sheep will deliberately beat their head against trees, rocks, posts, brush, just in order to get some relief. So when flies appear, the sheep panic. They run, they hide. They toss their heads up and down for hours. They forget to eat. They aren't able to sleep. So for this reason, the shepherd anoints the sheep. He covers their heads with an oil-like repellent. The fragrance keeps the insects at bay and the flock at peace. And that peace lasts for a long time, right up till mating season. See, most of the year, sheep are pretty calm and they're passive. But during mating season, everything changes. The ram becomes, well, rambunctious. They strut around the pasture, they flex their necks, trying to win the attention of the new gal on the block. And when the ram catches her eye, he tosses his head back and says, I want you. E-W-E, baby. Come on, I want you, baby, is pretty funny. The problem is about that time, the ram that's strutting his stuff runs into the boyfriend of the new gal, and it's going to get ugly. The two rams lower their heads and pow. An old-fashioned headbanging takes place. So to prevent injuries, the shepherd anoints the rams. He smears a slippery, greasy substance over their nose and their head. The lubricant causes them to glance off rather than crash into each other at full speed. They still tend to get hurt, however. And these wounds are the third reason the shepherd anoints the sheep. Now I got to tell you, most of the wounds the shepherd treats are simply the result of living in the pasture. Thorns prick and rocks cut, and a sheep rubs his head too hard against a tree. They're not always the smartest individuals, and the sheep get hurt. And the result, the shepherd regularly, often daily, inspects the sheep, searching for cuts and abrasions. He doesn't want the cut to worsen. He doesn't want today's wound to become tomorrow's infection. I'm thinking neither does God. Because just like sheep, we have wounds, but our wounds are often of the heart, and they come from disappointment after disappointment. And if we're not careful, these wounds lead to bitterness. And so just like sheep, we need to be treated. Psalm 100 verse 3 says this, know that the Lord is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people, the sheep of His pasture. You see, sheep aren't the only ones who need preventative care, and sheep aren't the only ones who need a healing touch. And we also get irritated with each other, and sometimes we butt heads. Sometimes we get wounded. Many of our disappointments in life become irritations, Large portion of our problems aren't big things. It's the day-to-day stuff and frustration and mishaps that grind us down. Sometimes when everything seems to be going wrong, I just stop and go, really, Lord? Really? Maybe it's just you didn't get invited to a dinner party, or you didn't make the team, or you didn't get the scholarship, or your boss didn't notice your hard work, or your husband doesn't notice your new dress. And you find yourself more irritable and more gloomy, and, well, maybe the word is hurt. And maybe like sheep, you don't sleep well and you don't eat well. You may even hit your head against a tree a few times. I've tried that, that doesn't work. Or maybe you hit your head against another person. It's amazing how hard-headed we can be with each other. Some of our deepest hurts come from butting heads with people. And like sheep, the rest of our wounds come just from living in the pasture. The pasture of sheep, however, is much more appealing. Sheep have to face wounds from thorns and the like. We have to face aging. And we have to face loss. And we have to face illness. And some of us face betrayal and injustice. And if we live long enough in this world, most of us will face something that's a deep hurt of one kind or another. So we, like sheep, get wounded, and we, like sheep, have a shepherd. Remember the words we read earlier from Psalm 100, verse 3? It says, know that the Lord is God. Pretty cool thing. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people, the sheep of His pasture. See, God will do for you what the shepherd does for the sheep. He will tend to you. Isn't it cool to know that God will tend to you and me? And if the gospel teaches us anything, they teach us that Jesus is the good shepherd. John chapter 10, verse 11, Jesus announces, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. And didn't Jesus spread the oil of prevention on his disciples? He prayed for them. He equipped them before he sent them out. He did the same thing to you. He revealed them the secrets of the parables. He does the same thing for us. He interrupted their arguments and he calmed their fears. Ditto. Because he's the good shepherd, he protected them against disappointments. And not only did Jesus prevent wounds, he healed them. He touched the eyes of a blind man. He had the audacity to touch the disease of a leper. He touched the body of a dead girl. He tends to his sheep. He also touched the searching heart of a man named Nicodemus. He touched the open heart of a guy in a tree named Zacchaeus. He touched the broken heart of Mary Magdalene. And he touched the stubborn heart of the Apostle Paul. And he touched the repentant heart of a guy named Peter. Maybe you as well. He tends to his sheep, and he will tend to you. The question is will you let him? You ask, well, how do I do that? Well, the steps are pretty simple. First, you have to go to him. Go to him. David would trust his wounds to no other person but God. He said, you, God, anoint my head with oil. Not your prophets, not your teachers, not your counselors. Other people may guide us to God. Others may help us to understand God. But no one does the work of God, for only God can heal. Psalm 147:3 says, He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. patches us up. Can I ask, have you taken your disappointments to God? Because you probably shared them with your neighbor. You probably shared them with your relatives or your friends. You may even have posted them on Facebook, for crying out loud. The stuff I see there is unbelievable. But have you taken them to God? The Apostle James in James 5:13 says, "Is anyone among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone happy? Let them sing songs of praise." Take it to God. If you're in trouble, take it to God. If you're happy, take that to God too. It's amazing how that disappointment can become an appointment when you take it to God. Before you go anywhere else, go to God. Now maybe you think you don't want to trouble God with your hurts. Today we prayed for a friend of mine who lost her pet. Maybe that's too simple. Maybe God doesn't want to know that. After all, he's got famines and pestilence and wars. He doesn't care about the little stuff we struggle with. Well, can I ask you to let him decide that? He cared enough about a wedding to provide wine. He cared enough about Peter to give him a coin to pay his taxes. He cared enough about a woman at a well to give her answers. Deep spiritual answers. 1 Peter 5:7 says, Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Your first step is to go to the right person. Go to God. Your second step is to assume the right posture. Bow before God. In order to be anointed, the sheep must stand still. They got to lower their heads and let the shepherd do his work. The Apostle Peter urges us in 1 Peter 5:6 to humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. And when we come to God, we don't make requests. Or, my apologies, we make requests, we don't make demands. We got to come with high hopes and a humble heart. We state what we want, but we pray for what is right. And if God gives us a prison in Rome instead of a mission in Spain, we got to accept it because we know God will always give us what is right to his people. Luke 18:7. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? The answer is absolutely. Will he keep putting them off? Clearly no. So we go to him and we bow before him. And lastly, we just got to trust him. The sheep doesn't understand why the oil repels flies. The sheep doesn't understand how the oil heals the wounds. In fact, all the sheep knows is that something really cool happens in the presence of the shepherd. And that's all we need to know as well. I pray Psalm 25 just about every night. The church camp that I served on the board of directors for was going through a tough time with a lawsuit a while back. Camp was being sued very unjustly. We prayed together very often Psalm 25. Again, I pray it just about every night. Verse 1 and 2 goes this way. In you, Lord, my God, I put my trust. I trust in you. Do not let me be put to shame, nor let my enemies triumph over me. Homework is to read Psalm 125. Maybe make it part of your daily prayers. So cool. Folks, when appointment becomes disappointment, go to him. Run to him. Bow down before him. And simply trust him and his promises. Matter of fact, going to him and bow down before him and trust him, I think maybe we should make that an appointment. Amen. Let's pray.